Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Method in Madness. This is episode number 35. Today, we're going to talk about behavior. Behavioral development in a child is something of great importance to every parent and every teacher. Once you are aware of the different milestones that the child has to cover, has to cross, has to meet, then you are at peace with yourself. But when it does not happen, there are questions that arise. Today, we're going to talk about that thin line which differentiates normal behavior from abnormal behavior. Why do children behave the way they do? Why do teens don't listen to us? So, to understand, to discuss, talk about how behavior changes in a child from one age to the other, we have with us Reena Singh. Reena is an occupational therapist and she is the founder of Khushi Pediatric Therapy Center. She works with families of children with special needs and children who have emotional and behavioral challenges. With over 20 years of experience, Reena works intuitively with children and their families using an eclectic approach. We are really privileged to have her with us for the show. Welcome, Reena.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. Reena, I have been watching almost every YouTube video that you create, and thanks to you for creating such a huge bank of videos, not just for parents who have children with special needs, but also general parenting sessions that you have taken, and you have recorded them and uploaded them. So first of all, I would like to thank you for doing that, because you don't find such direct and very practical ways to look at parenting and look at children the way you do. Behavior is something, Reena, that all parents worry about. And there are various things that kind of about the children that worry them, that becomes a cause for their worry and their distress, their anxiety. So today with us, we have parents, mostly all parents and teachers. And just to let all our viewers know that Reena and I are going to talk for the next 45 minutes, and then we are going to take your questions. So please join us in the in the chat box through your comments. So Reena, the first question is: we all know that that environment plays a big role in a child's development, and behavior is a big part of that development. How early does a child begin to kind of respond or react to the immediate environment, and how does it affect the child's behavior?
If I talk of the environment for a child, it starts as soon as the child is conceived, as soon as the baby is conceived in the womb, the environment of the womb matters, the emotions of the mother matter, the nutrition, everything. So it's the womb that matters, the environment in the womb. It starts as early as 5 weeks of conception. And it's so I think that's what your question is. It starts as early as 5 weeks and it continues, it continues to affect. And earlier in those 9 months, it is the mother's the emotional state that affects the child in a big way. Even later, immediately when a child is born, it is the immediate environment, it is the love, the care, the affection, the safety, the emotional safety, all of those matter. So it is as early as 5 weeks, I would say, that it starts affecting.
Okay. So do the parents and the teachers, once the parent, When the baby is out and the parent is there with the baby, and when the child is in the school, do teachers and parents need to make changes to kind of complement the behavioral growth of the child? Is it important to make changes in the parents' immediate environment or the teacher's immediate environment in the classroom?
So I don't really get, as in what kind of changes are we talking about? Because you know what I see when I've worked with kids who are neurotypical or kids who are
Mm,
neurodiverse, both of
mm.
them, I feel that the parents are always trying their best, and same with teachers, they are also always trying their best, you know. Uh, so, what specifically do you mean by the changes that we need to create?
Environmental changes in the sense the way parents are with each other, the way the teacher is with the other children, the teacher is with the other teachers in the classroom, in the school. Uh, Conversations, basically, conversations, behavior that the teachers and the parents should make in themselves when they are around the child and the child is growing.
So the conversations, yeah, see, whatever that we tell our kids in those first, I would say, 6 years of life,
Mm,
whatever that we tell them, it all becomes their internal voice later on. So the parent has to be very mindful about talking, anything that the parent is talking to the child, and forget talking, even behaving, you know. So we may be telling our kids, do this, you should do that, you should do this, you should do that, whatever, a whole lot of things.
mm,
But our kids are not just listening to us, they're seeing us all the time. So they're not
mm,
just going to do what you tell them to do, they're going to do what they see you do. So I feel the changes have to be in ourselves as a parent. If I see, you know, like when my son was little, he used to say, if you tell me to write like this, no, then I will get zero in my marks. And I used to be like, why is he saying this kind of a statement every time?
mm,
Again, I would tell him, do this, you know, like this, or whatever. I mean, whatever that I was teaching him, he would say, if you tell me to do it like this, I will get zero. This was the statement that kept coming. And I was like, where is he listening to this statement from? So I feel
mm,
it's very important that when we are telling our kids, also another thing is that, you know, if the child is not writing, you don't know how to write, you're not making an effort to write, you're being too lazy. These are the kinds of things that we tell our kids, you know, that is what happens. If the child forgets something, oh, you forgot your rubber again, you know, your eraser again. So I feel it's very important we tell our kids in a very, I would say, what, so if my son keeps saying you'll get zero, I told him, you can say that, you know, I will not do well and I can try to do better. You know, I can, whatever. I mean, it can be framed in a
mm,
better manner.
mm,
Instead of saying, oh, you are forgetting your rubber every time. But when he comes back, so if he's gone out, goes down to the school bus, and if he
mhm,
comes back running, oh, I forgot something, I would say, no, you've not forgotten, you remembered something, that's why you've come back. So I would teach the child to see the positive attribute of any behavior that is happening, you know. If he gets bad marks, I would say, see, you did bad, you know, you would get bad marks. Instead, I would say, you did your best, but I think you can do better than this, because this is not who you are. You can do better than this, and we can work it out together. So, what I'm trying to convey here is that it's very important, one, that we are the role models for our kids. And if we are, we better behave, you know, the way we want our kids to behave. Because, you know, they'll tell you, but you said this to that auntie. And when I'm
yes,
saying this, you know, like they're like sponges, you know, they're just picking up everything, every single thing they're picking up. And if we tell them, no, you shouldn't be speaking like this, then they'll tell you, but you spoke like this to that auntie, na? So why shouldn't I speak like this? So they're very clear, they're very smart, they know. And I think that's how, I wouldn't say smart or something, that's how kids are. They are in
mm,
that theta stage, which is like an imprinting stage, where anything that they see in the teacher or in the immediate, you know, whosoever is there in their, it could be the parents, it could be grandparents, it could be caregiver. You know, caregiver, I mean, nowadays it's mostly the maids or the help with whom the child is spending time. So they
mm,
pick up on those behaviors. They're not going to listen. So if the maid says, or if somebody says, you should be sitting quiet, but if they are talking on a loud, you know, they're talking loudly on their phone or something, and they are on their phone all the time, and we tell them you shouldn't be on the phone.
yes,
So they're not going to be listening.
mm,
They are going to see what you're doing, and they would do that So that is one. So becoming a very good role model is extremely important. Two, what are we telling our kids? Are we telling things by which they feel more confident and more, they feel better about themselves, or they feel, oh God, I was so bad. Oh God, I forgot. Oh God, I didn't do well. So, and again, another thing is that if we are saying those kinds of statements to our kids somewhere, if my child doesn't get good marks, for example, and if I'm saying, see, you didn't get good marks, it's a trigger for me as a parent. So that means there is something in me that needs to be worked upon, because my child's poor marks are making me feel bad instead of helping me to help my child do better. So I think those are some of the things. So one is, be a good role model, identify your triggers, which are the child's behaviors which make you feel like, oh God, why is he doing like this? Any behavior which triggers you is something that I feel I need to work on myself. So if my son is doing his homework and he goes, I get like really angry, and I'm like, Reena, you are getting triggered. You need to work on yourself. I can take that same behavior and I can say, what happened? You don't want to study. You don't like to study. Or you want my help. Or I can say, what is wrong with you? Every time you keep doing, I don't like it. So, if you are aware that you're getting triggered, are you a good role model? What is the kind of language that you're speaking to your child? These are three important things I feel which are very important, you know. So I hope that helps you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so, Reena, if you could just look at the different turning points in the child's behavior. I mean, the big jumps that we see, like there's a big jump that all of us know about, is when the child becomes a teenager, and everybody is kind of dreading that turning point to arrive in their lives. I speak with mothers who are mothers of 5 year olds who are right now dreading how will the child turn up when he or she will be 15. So what are the major milestones or major turning points in a child's life when he or she is growing up?
So see, you know what? I feel every day the child, I mean, I believe that every single day is different for a child. He's learning every single day. But having said that, I see the stage between 18 months to 2 years of age is a stage where the child is learning to become assertive. You say something and the child would say no for everything. Do you want to wear this clothes? I remember one child came to my center, and there was a Spider-Man, like a toy, basically in the cupboard. And I said, earlier he was not that defined, but once the ego starts developing, once they start understanding that I am somebody, like, I am someone and you can't just make me do things. They don't want to just be a follower. They want to also take up the role of being a leader and
Mm.
deciding and making their own choices, which is what also makes us like, I remember when my child was around 2 years of age. Before that, I thought he was like,
Yeah, so we are talking with, um, we are in conversation with Reena Singh. We have just lost her, but she'll be back in a moment. Yeah,
yeah.
there she is. Yes.
I was saying when my son was like young at 2 years of age, and before that, I used to wonder, wow, he's such a good boy. He would listen to everything and everything. And by two, he was like a no for everything. He became stubborn, he became assertive. And before that, I used to wonder, I can work with any child in this world. I am an occupational therapist with so many years of experience. I was like in my air and all. And my child taught me, being a therapist and being a parent is very, very, very different. So I
Mm.
feel defined stage. So another child that comes to my mind, the example that I left off halfway, where he would take out the Spider-Man from the cupboard and I would say, oh, do you want Spider-Man? He would say, no, no, no. I said, okay, so what do you want? And he said, I want a Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a no for everything, even
Mm.
when, so it's because only when they learn to say a no, they learn to understand the value of saying a yes. So that's what happens, and that is one big stage for most parents where it becomes really difficult. It's like, what, you keep saying no to me for everything, because life really gets difficult. It's It's
Mm.
really difficult. I work with so many parents, and they like, he keeps saying no for everything. When he's going down in the garden and we say, let's go back home, no, I want to play more. If he's eating something, do you want more? No. Or he wants keep. If I say stop eating, he says no, I want more. You know, no for every single thing. Do you want to wear a red t-shirt? No. Green t-shirt? No. So that is one part. But I see, if I see that behavior differently, ki, wow, my
Mm.
child is developing his inner voice. He is learning. He hasn't yet developed. That's just the beginning. By 6.5 or 7.5 years of age is when it that inner voice, starts, what you say, it internalizes. But till then it's like, no, 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 no for everything, and it really triggers us as in the parents, because we are used to a child being very, and we all
Mm.
expect, I think it's something that we've been taught. I don't know why, that children are meant to be listening to us. They're meant to be like, like it's like a mobile. If I
Yes,
press
yes.
sit down, stand up, go do this, do that. If I I seriously observe myself sometimes, and if I tell my son, go get me a glass of water, and maybe he's doing something outside, maybe studying or maybe watching TV or whatever, and in 2 minutes I'm like, where is my glass of water? I asked you so many times, and I'm like, Reena, you are trying to teach him patience. You have to
Mm.
learn patience first, because I
Mm.
expect that he should do it. If I've told him, he should do it. I do not take care that maybe he's busy doing something. Maybe I could join him in what he's doing.
Mm.
So that connection time is very important. So, first important time is between 18 months to 24 months. That's like 1.5 to 2 years of age. It develops, and then, yeah, by teenage, that's another, because it's like a stage of raging hormones, so many changes happening. That's another time. I don't see that as, I mean, most parents that I work with, they're not dreading teenage, because they're prepared. They know what will happen. They're working on it right from the beginning, like they're
Mm.
preparing the children, they're explaining to them, because teenage doesn't happen at 13, 13, and one day after that it'll start happening. No. As I told you, everything, it's like one day at a time. Everything
Mm.
is changing, one, small changes. So from 9 years, or maybe in some kids 8.5 years of age, you'll start seeing, those interests that even before in some kids, and in
Yes.
other sex, they are
Mm.
asking you, questions related to sex. They're talking about, they're more interested watching those, those ads that come up, and they want to have a conversation with you. I remember my son used to ask me, mommy, what is this stay free, what is this whisper, what are they talking about,
Mm.
so they start becoming aware of all of those things by, I would say, 8.5. A psychologist can tell you better. This is all from my experience that I've seen. But by then it starts coming in, and by teenage it stays, it stays for like good. And it's difficult in some kids, especially the kids that I work with. Some of them are non-verbal, some have autism, some have sensory processing issues, some have ADHD. Then in them it's even more difficult. It is, as it is difficult in neurotypical kids, and it becomes
Mm.
even more difficult. But I feel, if the parent is prepared, and if the parent has been answering and preparing and telling and being open to discussions, being open to questions related to these matters, I feel kids, they actually just want to know more. They're just inquisitive, they just want answers. And if we block them off, which is what usually happens, don't talk about these things, these are bad, you shouldn't
Mm.
speak
Mm.
that way, I find they become even more inquisitive. Then they try to find out who will answer me. So then they go to their friends, and their friends have that same limited knowledge, and they get that little dose of knowledge from them. And then together, as a gang, as a group, they want to know, let's check out more what's happening. So I feel it's, so those are the two main ages, I would say. But that 1.5 to 2 years doesn't stay and stop there. It continues till 5, 6, 6.5. It continues very, very
Mm.
gradually. And teenage doesn't happen at just 13 or a day before or after that. It starts from 8, 8.5. Girls may sometimes even earlier.
Mm.
So that's how it starts. And I think if we are clear on how to explain and talk and share, and the child feels there's a good relationship that he has with us, nothing is
Mm.
difficult, we can see them and we feel happy that, yay, my child is a teenager. Oh wow, my child is learning to, develop his ego. He's becoming aware of his emotions. So
Mm.
I think it's good.
Yes, even I feel it is good. And somehow we did have this kind of a discussion a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about sexual development and sexual behavior in children. And Dr. Janki was here, and she also mentioned the same thing, that it does
Okay.
not start at 13, it starts way before that. In fact,
Yeah.
I get these curious questions from my 8-year-olds, 7-year-olds, and because if the parent is not answering, then they will go to anybody who they feel they can trust. So for a teacher also, it becomes very important. What do you suggest a teacher, to how should a teacher be with children? Because there, the teacher is not working with one child, but many children at a time. And it also comes to uh, this state where she is addressing one, but everybody else is also listening to her. So, how do you think? How can a teacher, if you can suggest anything for teachers, how do they kind of look at themselves?
I think for teachers, they can answer as and when the question comes up. But excuse me. But mostly what I see is that there's so much of that syllabus that needs to be covered up that teachers are like really stressed out, too many things, working on. But if it comes up, I think it should be accepted. It should be acknowledged. Ki, okay, you
Mm.
have this question. It should be answered, whatever seems right for their age. It could be a very, whatever is right for their age. I mean, when my son asked me what is stay free, I said, when you were little, you wore pampers. When girls have their periods, they have to wear it for 7 days. You could control your urine for girls. God didn't give that, that tap, that what you call that
Mhm.
valve by which we could control it. Just comes. So that's a way. So he was like, okay, but if I would say, oh, don't talk about it. So I think as and when if that question comes, it's okay to take it up. But then most schools have counselors, and the teacher could bring it to the notice of the counselor. And I believe in most schools there are counselors who do those, they have those kinds of discussions, they talk.
Mm.
So I think that would be a good way to do it. But if it comes in front of a teacher, instead of like, you're like, what is she asking? She shouldn't be asking these questions. Shut up. That's the kind of thing. I think if we become okay with those topics and we feel okay about it and we just acknowledge it, okay, yeah, that's a good question. That's it. Just leave it there. I'll think
Mm.
about it. If the teacher doesn't know what to answer, she can say, oh, that's an interesting question that you have in your mind. Let me also think about it. Let's finish this chapter that we are doing and then we'll talk about it if we have the time. And if we don't have, I'll tell this counselor ma'am to come to your class and talk about it. So the child feels, oh, I'm going to get my answer, you know.
Yeah, right. Nowadays, parents pamper their children a lot more than what parents used to do when we were growing up. Um, they always feel that my child should get what I didn't, and kind of give everything that is possible for them to give, and maybe go beyond their themselves and do it. Um, Now, I have seen cases where over pampering has caused certain behavioral changes in a child, um, which are rather drastic, rather very abrasive, I would say. And there are some changes which are, in some children, I feel that they're normal. I mean, there's no problem in that. I mean, the parents have been pampering, but they have been firm at some point in time also. Now, the point is when the parent realizes, oh, I have pampered my child for such a long time. Now, what do I do? Now, I want to change his behavior. Is it possible to like do something about it? I don't know whether you can change the behavior or not, but do something about it. And if not, what can parents start doing while they want to pamper and still keep in mind? What should they keep in mind?
So I feel one is, I think our parents also pampered us in the way they thought that they could. I think they were good also. So we were also pampered. They were strict,
Yeah.
definitely, but they also pampered us. And I think the present day parent is also trying to do that. It's just that the mother, mainly I'm talking about, because the father's role has stayed the same, when we were
Mm.
kids, our dads were our dads and they would go to work, they would come back home. Most of the times the mothers were fully available, they were emotionally available to us, and they sculpted our mind, body and soul in those hours that they were at home. But the present day parents, mainly the mothers, are working and they're trying to balance so many things. They're trying to do it in the context of less social support. Earlier, there were like so many people taking care of the child and all. So I feel in general, the mother and the father both are having their career. I'm not against career, I'm also working. But somewhere while doing that, when they're not able to balance their role between being a parent and a professional, that's when that over pampering happens. When the parent feels the guilt, that I'm not spending enough time, so let me do this, or I'm not doing enough of this, so let me do that. That is something that happens. Secondly, yeah, it also happens when they didn't get what they should have got as a child and they're trying to put it all on their children. So both the ways it does happen. True. At what age can we change? I think behavior can be changed at any time, because children, it can be changed at any time, but 0 to 8 years is a big age. That's when they learn most of the stuff. 6 years, 6 7 years, I would say, when the thing is getting imprinted, it's getting imprinted into the brain. So after that, children are learning mainly from other kids of their age. They are learning from, or they're looking at role models, the kids role models I'm talking about, huh? So if my son has a role model, it may be a YouTuber, and I don't want a YouTuber, but maybe that's his role model. So he may not learn from me, but he will learn from whatever that YouTuber will have to say. So if the YouTuber says, what, this particular brand of gun is very good, so he'll feel, wow, I should have that gun. So what I'm trying to convey here is that in the early years, children are very, very, you can adapt. They adapt and you can mold them. Later also you can mold them, but they are not so much influenced by only what you are saying, but also by what their role models are saying. So it differs, but it really really depends on what is your, as a child. Okay, if my child has a very strong attachment with me, a good relationship with me, then even if he grows up and even if I pamper him, he would still regulate himself. He wouldn't have those behaviors, the so-called socially undesirable behaviors, because there's a strong relationship there. It's only when that relationship is not strong enough, when the child would mainly want to be with only friends, only talk to friends. I see most of them having their phone, they're down, going down and playing again, they're on their phone. When they come back home, you want to talk to your child, they're talking to their friends again on WhatsApp or whatever, Discord or whatever that they're using as a platform, because they're not getting that connection or that attachment that they seek from us, because all that we as parents sometimes end up doing is only give instructions. So your question is, can we change their behaviors? If we have a very good, strong relationship.
Talking about behavioral development in children, there's a small glitch which keeps coming up. So Reena will be back with us soon, and
Sure.
there she
I'm
is.
sorry
Yes.
for the glitch. Please bear with me. Yeah. So I was saying that what I was saying was that if the child has a good relationship with the parent, anyone is also okay. It could be the mother, father, caregiver, anyone. There has to be good. If there are many, if when we were all kids, we had a uncle, we had an auntie, we had a cousin, we had a grandparent. So we were always attached to so many people, and they were all mixed age. It was not like just younger,
Mm.
it was a mixed age thing that made the social development, it really helped us immensely, which is what is not happening now. So what I'm trying to tell you is, in this era, in this age, wherever that we are, bringing up our kids, if they can have just one figure with whom they're very close to, they can share what they want to share, they can speak their heart out. If they feel bad, they come and share it with you. If they have that figure, then no matter how much you pamper them, they will still be grounded. But so that is one bit of it. But if I'm overdoing it as a parent, then it means there
Mm,
is something in me that needs more work. So as I told you, if I'm working too much and if I feel guilty that I've not spent enough time with my child, then it is me, like I am pampering the child because I am not able to handle my guilt. In that case, it's important that the parent learns how to handle your own guilt, how to balance, how to prioritize. So those are the things I feel that are important. But with younger kids, it's very easy. Once they're 8, 9, 10, it is, you can still change their behaviors, but the imprint that is there from the first 6 years will stay. That is the default, what you call, that is the default program that's set in the child's brain. We all do that even now. I mean, we all do that. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, like if I'm very angry, we were always, I was very stubborn because I saw my dad getting angry at things. So my dad
mm,
never said, Reena, you should get angry. But I saw that whenever there was a stress, he would get angry, he would shout, and he would raise his voice. So
mm,
now, I mean, I've worked on myself really hard. But when my son was younger, and whenever he would have a behavior,
mm,
whatever that would trigger me, I would do exactly what my dad used to do. And I'm like, oh God. Like, so that's my default programming, because that was what
mm,
was embedded, imprinted in my psyche from 0 to 6 years of age. So we can definitely change. I have changed myself. We can all change on ourselves, but it has to be balanced mutually. Good, solid relationship with at least one figure who's emotionally available. Two,
mm,
if there could be, and we can use those role models. Huh? Very good to use those role models. So if my son loves a particular role model, I will say, that role model was talking about this. That's a good way to enter into
mm.
their world.
Their world. Mm, right. Um, Reena, I often see, and this is a case which often parents also talk about, is their children being oversensitive. I run a drama program, and many parents come and tell me that my child is very sensitive. I have a boy; he's very sensitive. I don't know how will he, lead his life in this world, in this big bad world. I don't know what is going to happen to him. People are going to, fool him or whatever. I mean, parents come with these fears. Now, I just want to ask you: is it a nice thing? Is it not a nice thing to have a sensitive child? And if my child is sensitive, what should I think?
I feel every child is different. They are all different flowers in a garden. Someone is a rose, someone is an orchid, someone is so they're all different. They're beautiful the way they are. That is one. And if the child is very sensitive, a boy is very sensitive, he'll grow up to become an amazing father, an amazing uncle. He may become he would be an amazing husband too.
Mm,
I think we're all different, and it's okay to be different. It's a big bad world is the belief of the parent. But maybe the child doesn't think that way. He's sensitive, and maybe he would attract people in his life who are amazing. So I think that's the belief system of the parent, and they're worrying. I think as parents, all that we have to do is just accept them for who they are and strengthen that personality trait in them, which is their strength, so that they
mhm,
grow into who they are meant to become and express themselves as an adult. So I feel being sensitive is an amazing quality, which could be, oh, I wanted to share this. So I went out for a short vacation. Very good
mm,
memory suddenly came to my mind. So I saw this boy, and he was crying. He was 9 year old, and he was crying. And I was actually washing my hands. It was a public what you call area. It was like a
mhm,
restaurant basically, and he was in that restaurant. I didn't know who that man was, and that boy was crying, 9, 10, maybe, big elder than him. So he was tall as me. And that father was like, why are you crying like a girl? How can you be so sensitive? Why are you crying like a girl? How can you be so sensitive? I ignored. I said, Reena, don't pick up every battle. You're not here to teach everyone. He still kept saying, how can you cry like a girl? How can you cry like a girl? I got so angry. First, I said, Reena, you're
mm,
being triggered. I first calmed myself down. I went to him and I said, if he's crying, he is expressing his emotion. And please allow him to express his emotion. You know, we are allowed to share happiness. We are allowed to share joy. We are not allowed to share anger. We are not allowed to share grief. We are not allowed to share
Mm,
sadness. That's not right. I said, you know, you're teaching this boy to suppress his emotions. And when he grows up, he will need therapy to get these emotions out, which he's bottling inside. I don't know how he took it, but that's what we do with our kids. So if they are sensitive, they are sensitive. I think they need expression of emotions, which should be encouraged, even if it is bothering us. Maybe it was bothering the father. So that's the
mm,
father's work, no, to work on himself. And I think if boys are crying, they should be allowed. Please, let's not be that way with our boys. You know, we really torture them. Men are not allowed to experience an emotion. They're not allowed to even express their emotion. They're supposed to be those tough people. They feel
mm.
emotions too. You know, so I think it's a good trait. Please allow them. I'm not saying allow them to become weak or they should be no, just allow them to express it and help them to channelize it and deal with it. That's all, you know.
No, thank you very much for that answer, because that's really really helpful. Because I struggle a lot while answering this question, because I don't see anything wrong in being, sensitive. It's a nice thing to be sensitive. But talking about anger, Rina, there are many children. I mean, I would say 7, 8 year old neurotypical children, and also teenagers definitely, who themselves they come and tell me that I have anger issues. So is this anger issues a big issue that people talk about?
So when a child comes to me and he says, I have anger issues, I tell them, who told you so?
Yeah,
You know, because
I
they've
know.
heard it from someone. They've just heard it
Yeah,
from someone. They don't even know what anger issues mean. Maybe the
yeah.
child has got angry and the child has expressed, and we say, oh, you have anger issues. So the child starts feeling, oh, maybe I have a problem, you know, and maybe this
Mm,
needs to be worked upon. I work with so many neurotypical girls who they have difficulties understanding these understanding, though I won't say they have difficulties making sense of the labels that they are given. You know, my book, it's called Looking Beyond Labels. Please look beyond labels. Don't give labels to your kids. So one of this girls, she came to me and she said, you know, my dad says I have anger issues. So I said, okay. And that was a better way to say it. See, when I say
mm,
I have
mm.
anger issues, I have already attached it to my identity, you know.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
framed it well that my dad says that I have anger issues. I said, oh, so this is what he thinks. What do you feel about it? She says, I don't think so. I said, so what do you want me to do about it? She says, I want you to help me understand how to help me. You know, so that was so beautiful. So what I'm trying to tell you is, I anger issues, mainly anger is a word which comes up. Anger is an emotion, rather, which comes up only when our boundaries are crossed. Okay. So if I'm not letting my child assert himself, if I'm constantly micromanaging the child, you know, do this, don't do that, wear this, don't wear that, you know, every single instruction, micromanaging. And I know of people, you know, I know, I work with so many parents, and they say, this is the little grandson in the house, mother is saying do this, father is saying do that, grandmom is saying do this, grandfather is saying do that. And when they see the child sitting just for a moment, just breathing freely, they say, oh god, my child is idle, you know, I can't let my child stay idle. We've come into the zone of being busy all the time and wanting our kids to be busy, over structuring them with classes and I don't know what all. So anyways, what I'm trying to tell you is, anger happens only when we do not respect each other's boundaries. If we respect a child's boundaries and if we allow them to respect ours, anger won't stem up. If it does stem up, I would talk to the child when he's out of that anger. Okay.
Mm,
By this, I mean, when I'm talking to you right now, I'm using this part of my brain, which is my prefrontal cortex. I'm thinking, I'm talking, I'm logical, you know, like, but when I'm angry, I'm in my survival state. That's my brain over here. In that state, nothing goes in because the brain feels, oh, you know, like you are, you know, the person feels so unsafe. He wants to push back and he wants to resist and he wants to, like, you know, very instigated. So one is, don't react, or I won't say react, but respond when the child is in that prefrontal stage, when the child is receptive, ready to take in your suggestion, and talk about what the child did, why he did what he did. Ask him, because that time later he would be able to answer to you. Do not label them, do not give them those labels that you have anger issues, because you
Mm.
may stop telling them, but those labels stay with them lifelong. I
Yeah.
work with adults, 40-year-olds, 45-year-olds, 50-year-olds. I worked with one lady who's 79. She's a grandmother who comes to me and she says, my mom used to tell me I am like this. So you see, those labels stay with
Mm.
you even when you become a grandfather or a grandmother. What I'm only trying to tell you is sit with the child later, talk about what was the reason that caused that emotion, and if given a chance again, how would he change his behavior in that same situation? That helps the child to understand, oh, maybe I didn't do it right. I should do it differently. And if that behavior happens again, no, if that same situation happens again, and if the child responds the same way he responded earlier, it's okay. He's trying, it's not like a switch done. Next time I'll do it differently. We are also working on managing our anger. So it takes many, many, many repetitions and many discussions, many conversations for the child to learn to regulate emotionally. I hope that helps you.
Yes, that helps immensely. Because I often see teenagers, mothers of teenagers, coming and telling me that my son does not listen to me, and he snaps back at me every time, and if I ask him to do anything, he will not do it. Um, and most of the children nowadays are not physically active as well, due to the whatever the situation is right now. Um, so, do you recommend that the parent also kind of starts working on himself or herself from the day he or she becomes a parent?
The day he plans to become a parent, that would be better. Yeah, because if you're planning, it's a big responsibility. It's a big, huge responsibility. So if you plan, it is important to work on yourself. It is definitely important. It takes years and years and years of work to evolve, and the child will constantly trigger you, not listen, say a no, say this, say that. And in such moments, if you can stay calm and welcome that emotion that is coming up in the child, contain that emotion, being calm, be contain your emotion that is being triggered, and then talk to the child once that emotion is over, it will help immensely. It will really help. So I think it's extremely important that we work on ourselves. Like I was telling you, when I became a parent, I thought I'm an occupational therapist, I know everything, and I realized I don't know anything. I just know the techniques. The child is triggering me every time, and how I work on myself is my strength. The days my child is having a tantrum, shouting, screaming, and I'm like, "Ugh, I want to shout at him," and I'm like, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Breathe, 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 Reena, breathe, 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 breathe. Breathe, 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 breathe. That's the mantra I go on. Breathe, 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 breathe. And my child had his tantrum. He's fine. I got my work done, and I've not shouted at my child. I'm like, yay! I have won. That's what it is, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. When we talk about behavior, let's talk about neurodiverse children now. Um, there are parents who are in denial, and that could be another complete different webinar that we could do on parents who know it but don't know it. And then there are parents who worry too much. For instance, this whole thing of not sitting down in one particular place and always running around. Some parents fear that it could be ADHD, and some of them don't even go for a thorough diagnosis and come and say that no, I think my child is has attention deficiency problem. uh, so let us talk a little bit about this. What are the red flags that parents can watch out for? uh, I mean,
For
when
ADHD or for any kind of a
for
something
any
that's
kind
not
of
the development is going a little, like it's not going the
Yes,
way it should. That's what you
yes.
mean.
Primarily ADHD, because that is the most common thing that is happening at the moment.
With ADHD, see, one is that at 2 years of age, you cannot definitely diagnose ADHD because till 6 years of age, kids are meant to run, move, climb, jump, feel things. So that is very, 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 like very fine. But yeah, if the child has, and I'm talking about this at say 4.5, or even 5 years of age, so ADHD is one thing and ADD is another thing. ADHD is attention deficit with hyperactivity.
Hyper.
So it's attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And there's another one which is called ADD, which is only attention deficit disorder.
Mm,
These kids are very impulsive and they cannot sustain their attention on one thing for long. When it is
mm,
ADHD, it is hyperactivity along with impulsivity, along with inattention. Not being able to, you do one task, done, not even done, then go to the next one, then to the
mm,
next one. Impulsive, it's like one thought after the other, and they're constantly responding to each thought that comes. They cannot stay at one task for long. But having said this, I have a parent who came to me. Her son was 2.5 years of age, and she said, I think my child has poor fine motor skills, and he also has hyperactivity, ADD or
mm,
ADHD. She said,
mm,
maybe it is that. I said, okay, so what do you want your child to do? She says he should start writing. He should at least hold a crayon. Now, 2.5 years of age, children are not meant to write. You
no,
know,
not at all.
in in the olden years, olden to nahi bolenge, it was like in around say 30 years back.
Mm,
The reason nahi, the time when the child used to lose the tooth was the time
huh,
that they would go into a school. When the child's hand could touch the other ear like this, then they knew that the fine motor, the child is ready for, like writing tasks. That's when they used to put their children into schools. So this boy is just 2.5. And I was like, okay, that is one thing. He can't write. What is your other concern? She says he can't sit at one place for too long. I said, how long does he
mm,
sit and does his task? He sits for only 10 minutes. And I said, you know what? A 5-year-old child can sit for only 9 minutes developmentally. Otherwise, a child is supposed to do activities, run, jump, climb, move. That's what a child is meant to be doing. So, what I'm
mm,
trying to convey is if you see any of those like constantly moving from one activity to another, very impulsive, very fidgety, very what else, so inattentive and very hyperactive, as I said, not being able to be still even for a minute or even for a second. If you see them constantly running, constantly jumping, climbing, falling, so these are some of the red flags that you can see and meet a specialist who could evaluate. But at a younger age, as I told you, between 0 to 6 years of age, children are meant to be doing that. So that is one thing. I know a lot of doctors who tell their children. Now, this is also important. In my book, I've really explained this also, because if a child is not given enough sleep, a
mm,
child is supposed to sleep for at least 10 hours. After 3 or 4 years of age, afternoon nap is not so much needed, but nighttime sleeping is important, and that too at the right time. When I talk to parents and I say, what time does your child sleep? They say 11:30, 12, 12:30.
mm,
Some parents say, yeah, we sleep at 2, as if, it's like a very normal thing.
mm,
And I'm like,
mm.
if your child sleeps that late, his brain is not rested, he will be hyperactive. So
Yeah.
there are many doctors who tell the children, tell the patients who go to them, let the child sleep by 9, 9:30, and let them sleep the full night every day. One, let them be away from screen, and let them move around, let them jump around, let them do what they're meant to do. So screen time, parents, very young children, parents, like 4 or 5-year-old or even 2-year-old, they say when he cries, I give him the phone. I said any handheld device is supposed to be away from a child.
Mm,
And I said, how many hours do you give this to a child? They said 3 hours, 4 hours. It's okay. It's definitely not okay. So what I'm trying to tell you is, one, if sleep is fine, if you see those hyper what you call active kind of traits, then check for sleep. Check if the uh, what did I say is the second one. So check if the sleep is fine. Check if the child is too much in front of screen. Check
screen.
what is the child eating. Is he eating only processed? Nowadays, the food, I'm not against fast food. We all need to try everything and be, like, taste everything. But if the child is only eating chips and chocolate, I had one more child who came to me and the mother said, he's so hyperactive. I said, do me one thing. I just asked, what does he eat? Every day when I go out, there is a shop next to my house, and he just asks for one ice cream. And I give him every day while going. And while coming back, I give him one chocolate. That 5 rupee dairy milk, that's all that I give him. I said, if you can take that off for just a
Mm,
month, give him maybe
mm,
once in 15 days, but if you can not give it every day. And then
mm,
she came to me after a month, she said, I don't think he needs so much therapy. So, what I'm trying to tell you is sleep, food, screen time, they are all important. So, it's not like, oh, my child has ADHD, but is he getting the raw material which he needs for the optimal development of his brain? That's also important. I hope that
mm.
helps you.
Yeah, it does.
It does.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We are almost 10 minutes away from closing the program. So, audience, please ask your questions. We already have a couple of questions. Deepak Kumar is asking, how long does the stage of defiance in neurodiverse children continue?
This is what all parents ask me, and it continues. It won't go away. You have to balance it. You have to balance it, meaning if the child says no, I do, first is I have to respect that it's coming up, so I give a choice to the child, but at the same time, I also, the child has to learn to take a no for an answer also. And if we
Mhm,
say a no to a child, the child will have a tantrum, will get angry, and we have to be okay about it. So I don't think it ever goes away. It never goes away. But in fact, by the time the child becomes 13, it'll be even more, right? We are
mhm.
still defined at our age, as in, I wouldn't say defined, but we are assertive, right? We
Yes,
stand
we
up for
are.
ourselves. So I think it
Absolutely.
is a good stage. It has to be balanced. It won't go away. It's a developmental stage. So it's good. The child learns by 7 or 8 or even beyond that I shouldn't be doing this. I should take care of it. But that all happens if that adult who's there with the child
Mhm,
is accepting and helping the child to self reflect, understand why he did what he did, how he should behave differently. So there's a lot of connection time needed to help the child to learn how to sometimes stand up and sometimes listen. That dance of being a leader and a follower is what we have to teach the child.
mm. I hope that helps you, Deepak. The next question is oh, this is a very interesting question. Dhruva is asking, at what age a child should make friends?
Child is always, I think you put two babies together, they always want to be, that thing of being together is always there from the beginning. They are always wanting to be friends with others. They may not talk, but they will look and smile. And initially, in the very early stages, they are just parallel playing, they're just playing together. So I think that there's no age to form friends.
Mm,
It just changes its form. So they learn to play together meaning not with each other, but maybe in the same room doing two different things. So that's like parallel play. Then they'll play with each other, but maybe just say, give me your so if they're playing, give me that yellow block of yours,
yes,
and this
yes.
one would say, give me that. So very little would come in. So it's a very gradual thing, but it's
Mm,
right there from the beginning. You put a 1 year old together, two of them, they look at each other and smile. They are initiating it from the beginning. But it changes, as I said. Later it
mm,
would become like a role play. You do this, I'll do that. Okay, you become this, I'll do that. So it changes, and then sharing interests, sharing. So it what I would say, it transforms. Starts as early as 1.5 year of age, around
mhm,
that age, but differently changing the way it expresses itself.
mhm. All right, thank you. Sarah is asking, my 12-year-old son who has autism and non-verbal hyper hyperventilates a lot. Can you help me as how can I stop this behavior?
I'm losing you. My internet connection is coming and going. Can you repeat the
Yes,
question again, please?
yeah, it's on the screen. So Sarah is asking my 12-year-old son. has autism, and he's also having non-verbal, hyperventilates a lot. And can you help me as long as I can stop this behavior?
I won't want to stop that behavior if he's hyperventilating. See, you know what? We
Mm,
all have. I can't give you a small tip on how to stop one, because that is his way of helping himself. That is one. So if I have to do an interview with you, so interviews don't make sense. If I have to say do something which I don't know how to do very well, then my
mhm,
body starts getting that palpitations, or I may get those butterflies in my stomach. So those are the kinds of
mm,
things that start happening. That means
mhm,
my sympathetic. So we have, to make it very simple, I have an accelerator to my body and I have a brake to my body. Okay, there are two things. My accelerator is the sympathetic nervous system. My brake is the parasympathetic nervous system. Okay. Whenever I feel threatened and unsafe, emotionally, physically, whichever way, my accelerator part of it, the sympathetic system, will become active. And that's when the child would go hyperventilating and running and jumping and flapping and pacing and not giving eye contact, maybe sounds and those all kinds of things. It is just a cue for me to realize that my child is feeling unsafe, and I help him to feel more safe. Maybe he is in a setup where there's too much light, there's too much of smell, or there are too many people. That's what is causing it. Then I take him away from that place. Maybe it is something that happened just before whatever. So
mm.
there are a lot of reasons why it may happen. But if the child is doing that hyperventilated, it is just his body physiologically asking for help. Please help me out. I'm not able to manage in this situation. That's what it is. It's a call for help.
Okay. I have a question for you. You use different approaches for your therapy. Um, First of all, why is this approach? What made you look at therapy not just from one point of view, but different points of view? And how do you approach your work as a therapist? That is something that I would like to know.
I kind of lost you again because of the internet. So I use a lot of approaches. What made me use the kind of approach that I use? Is that your
Yes,
question?
yes, yes, yes.
All right, all right. So one is I use a lot of approaches because of initially I just worked as an occupational therapist, as I told you. So I would just use this typical. It's beautiful. I love being an
Mm,
occupational therapist, and I use sensory integration. I use therapeutic listening, which were all related to my field. Then when my son was born and he had his defined stage and I was finding it difficult to manage, I tried my behavioral strategies. Maybe using behavioral approaches would work, but it didn't help him.
mhm,
And then I realized, Reena, instead of focusing on him, maybe I need to put the focus on myself. Maybe I need to work on myself. That's when I went and I started doing one. I did EFT. I thought maybe there are emotions that are triggered in me because of my child's behavior. And when I did EFT, I said, wow, my child, the parents who come to me would also get help by this. So I started
mhm,
integrating it. Then I thought, okay, let me do NLP. Then I thought, oh, wow, that's also helping. I think it was my journey of going within and helping myself to become a better parent that made me undergo a lot of courses so that I could work on myself while I work on my child too. And that helps so many other parents who come to me. So that's why I do what I do, because I feel it's not just one person who's responsible for the relationship. It's both of us, and we both need to work on ourselves. That's what I feel.
mm. Tell us a little bit about your book, as we are almost at the fag end of our conversation. We'd love to listen about hear about your book that you've recently published and released.
So here's my book. Yeah, now you can see it. It's called Looking Beyond Labels, Becoming a Mindful Parent. Looking beyond labels. When I was little, I was given a lot of labels. As you said, my child has anger issues. So everyone used to say, Reena has a lot of anger issues. Reena is very stubborn. Ziddi hai, ziddi. Kitni dheet
Mm,
hai. They stayed with me. Now, if anybody says this to their kids, मेरा बच्चा ढीठ है. I see my
Mm.
mother in their mothers. And I see myself in those kids. I'm like, please don't do that. It stays, it creates those emotional wounds. It takes a lot of time to heal, time, energy. It's really painful. It's painful within, it is really difficult. So my book is called Looking Beyond Labels. You know, okay, my child has autism, my child has ADHD, my child has this, my child has that. Am I ziddi?
Um, yes, are you
Did you hear?
back? No, no,
Internet
we
went
didn't.
off. Yeah, I was saying
Yes.
that beneath my anger, beneath my stubbornness was a reason I was doing what I was doing. If that was understood when I
Mm.
was little, of course, I still worked on it. But looking beyond labels in my book is about don't look just for the anger. Don't look that, okay, my child has autism and that's why he's doing everything that he's doing. My child has
Mm.
ADHD and that's why he is what he is. No, there's so much more than the label. Like parents tell me, I never saw my child's eyebrows or the eyelashes. I didn't know she was so beautiful. All that I looked at was her autism. All that I looked at was she was not sitting, but she had so many other strengths. So I feel looking beyond labels is my, what I would say, it's like my 20 years of experience, like a sugar cane, you crush it and get the juice out. That's what I've put in my book, that, my 20 years, whatever I learned, whatever mistakes I made, however it changed me, so that it helps other parents to help their kids. I'm becoming a mindful parent because I feel it's not just the child, it's
Mm.
us also every time. I'm really trying hard. I'm just a 11-year-old parent because my son is 11 years old, so I'm also just an 11-year-old mother. I'm really trying every single day. Everyone is, I'm sure, trying that before I give an instruction to my child, am I mindful? Do I really need to give this instruction? Am I micromanaging? Did I just give this instruction some time back? Oh, I can pause for some time. Maybe I could give the instruction and a little bit later. So I'm always checking, like I want every parent to become more mindful. So that's what my book has. It's mainly for every parent who wants to
Mm.
give their child a label. It's about trying to understand and look beneath those behaviors.
Yeah.
There is an unmet emotional need beneath every behavior. So, to identify that unmet emotional need and to help, that's all that book helps people with. So, and for this month of December, I'm giving it as at 50% till 31st December. So, anyone
Oh,
who wants can take it. It's on Amazon only for this month because I wanted to reach to lots of people.
definitely. We can
So,
have the link put up, and those who are watching can please go onto the link and get the book. I'm getting the book for sure. I anyway follow your YouTube channel. Let me tell all of you who are watching, Reena has an amazing YouTube channel, lots of videos, Q&As. Please go visit her YouTube channel. You'll really, I mean, it's a treasury of information, and it's very, very good.
thank
But
you.
thank you so much. Thank you so much, Reena, for sharing your thoughts, your ideas, your wisdom with us, and giving us your time. I'm sure those who were listening and watching us have benefited. And thank you, everybody, for
Thank you for
watching.
the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for allowing me to speak it. Thank you.
Thank you. And please subscribe to our channel. We do this every week. Every weekend, we bring in an expert and we talk about how to look at our children as human beings. So, thank you, Reena. Thank you, everybody. Have a very good night. Next week, we have a pediatrician with us, actually, and we are going to talk about mother's health and how mother's health affects the child from pregnancy to till the child is there and till the mother is there. So that's going to be a very, very informative conversation as well. But thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Reena. Good night.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.